In the high-stakes world of corporate takeovers, what if I told you there's a defense mechanism so powerful, so controversial, that it's literally named after a suicide capsule? It's a tool that can obliterate a hostile bid in an instant, but it also raises some really tough questions about who's really in charge of a company. Today, we're cracking open the poison pill.
To really get the poison pill, you have to go back in time. Picture it, the 1980s. Wall Street was an absolute battlefield. This was the era of junk bonds and leveraged buyouts, and a new kind of predator was on the prowl, the corporate raider. And you know what? No company was safe.
So this was the million-dollar question, or really the billion-dollar question, facing every boardroom in America. Imagine a raider just waltzes in, bypasses you completely, and makes a tempting offer directly to your shareholders. How do you possibly fight back? How do you protect the company you've built? Yeah, this whole era was defined by something called the hostile tender offer. Basically, raiders would just ignore a company's leadership and shout out a public offer to buy shares from any investor willing to sell, usually for more than they were worth. You can imagine the kind of pressure that put on the board. The raiders' playbook was pretty straightforward, and honestly, pretty brutal. They had mountains of cash from junk bonds, and they'd use these hostile tender offers to go right over the board's head. Management was left totally powerless, forced to make these massive decisions under incredible pressure. It was clear something had to change. They needed a new kind of shield. And that shield was the poison pill. It was a completely radical, preemptive weapon that a board could set up in advance, ready to stop a raider dead in their tracks, before a hostile bid could even get off the ground. The whole idea was the brainchild of a lawyer named Martin Lipton, and here's what made his concept so controversial. It was a defense that a board could put in place fast, all on its own, without even asking the shareholders for a vote. It was designed to give the board the two things it needed most: time and leverage. So, the official name is a Shareholder Rights Plan, which sounds pretty tame. But in reality, it's basically a tripwire. If a hostile buyer grabs a certain percentage of the company's stock, boom, the pill activates, and the deal suddenly becomes a financial nightmare for them. The way this thing actually works is both ingenious and frankly devastating. It all boils down to one powerful concept: massive targeted dilution. Okay, so it happens in 3 steps. First, the raider starts gobbling up shares on the open market. Second, they cross a preset line in the sand, usually when they own somewhere between 10 and 20% of the company. And third, bam, the pill goes off, triggering what's known as the flip-in provision. Now here's the secret sauce. The real key to the poison pill is exclusion. Every single shareholder gets the right to buy brand new shares at a crazy discount. We're talking 50% off, except for the one person who triggered the pill in the first place, the raider. They're left out in the cold. This chart shows you exactly what happens. Let's say a raider buys 15 million shares in a company with 100 million total shares. They've got a powerful 15% stake. But then the pill activates. All the other shareholders rush in and buy new, cheap stock. Suddenly, there might be 200 million shares in total. The raiders' 15 million shares? Well, now that's only 7.5% of the company. Their ownership power was just cut in half, and the cost to finish the takeover just doubled overnight. The bid becomes financially toxic. But here's the crucial part. The board holds all the cards. They have the antidote. They can redeem the pill. Basically, turn it off for next to nothing at any time. This is what gives them the power. They can welcome in a friendly buyer or tell the hostile bidder, come back to the table with a better price and maybe we'll talk. Now, of course, something this powerful was immediately challenged in court. A few key rulings in Delaware, which is where most big companies are incorporated, set the ground rules. The court said, okay, yes, the pill is legal, but the defense had to be a proportional response to a real threat. And, this is a big one, if a sale is gonna happen no matter what, the board's job changes. They now have to act like auctioneers and get the absolute highest price possible for shareholders. And these legal fights really get to the heart of the controversy that still surrounds the poison pill today. Is it a shield to protect shareholders, or is it a sword for management to protect their own jobs? You know, the arguments on both sides are really compelling. On one hand, people say it protects companies from cheap, unfair bids and gives the board the breathing room to focus on a long-term strategy. But on the other hand, critics argue it just helps bad management dig in, it scares away good offers, and fundamentally, it takes away a shareholder's right to sell their stock to whoever they want, whenever they want.
Now, you might be thinking of the poison pill as some kind of 80s relic, like a members-only jacket. But the truth is, it's continued to adapt. It is still a very relevant weapon on the 21st century corporate battlefield. Today, pills are often short-term, maybe lasting just a year to deal with a specific threat. We saw a huge comeback for them during the 2020 market crash, when companies were trying to stop opportunistic investors from swooping in. They're also a go-to tool against shareholder activists now. But the big investors, the huge funds, they're pushing back. More and more, they're demanding a shareholder vote on any new pill. And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. The entire point of the poison pill, its whole legacy, was to take the power to decide a company's future away from the wild west of the market, the street, and put it squarely in the hands of the boardroom.
Which leaves us with one final big question. In today's world of activist investors and markets that move at the speed of light, is the poison pill still a necessary shield to protect long-term value? Or is it an outdated weapon that gives boards way too much power at the expense of the very shareholders they're supposed to serve? That's a debate that is far, far from over.